This was one of the toughest weeks to pick my favorite metal albums because there was just so many good ones. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's album art of the week. It's the weekend. That means we've got new metal albums to talk about. And as always, I'm bringing you my top 5. But before we do the top 5, let's talk about some of the big releases and news of this week. First up, one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year. One of the most important entities in my metal fandom, Deathclock, finally releasing Death Album 4 on the heels of their new Metalocalypse movie. I'm so stoked about this. It's such a stacked week. We also got a new album from the Metalcore OGs, the legends, asking Alexandria with where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? You're at the top of the mountain. I don't know. But we got a new album. Check it out. And speaking of legends, we also got a new album from the legendary French avant-garde black metal band Blust aus Nord with Disharmonium. If you like it weird, this one's for you. And we're not done with the Legends Tour. The OGs of OGs, Incantation, with their new album, Unholy Deification. Now, if you're like me, you probably looked at the album cover and at first thought it was Unholy Defecation, which would be weird unless you've been drinking a lot of whiskey the night before. But no, it's deification. Let's go get this one because Incantation rules. Now let's do the top 5. Coming in at number 5, we've got Till the Dirt with Outside the Spiral. I got a sneak preview of this one in my inbox, so my written review is already published in Metal Digest. All the links to all my writings are in the description below. This is the new band from Kelly Schaefer of Atheist fame. So you got one of the OGs who helped to establish the death metal sound with his new band Till the Dirt. He's trying to re-establish a different way to make death metal. It's still got that brutality and the stank face riffs, but this album's got clean singing and a lot of grunge influences in it. It's definitely unique sounding. Metal Archives listed it as progressive death metal, and it is absolutely not progressive. But I just think that they didn't really know how to slot it in a genre because it's definitely weird for death metal. It's got a lot of different kinds of music in it. And so what would you call it? It's not avant-garde, it's not experimental, it's definitely death metal, but it's got like this rock and roll feel to it. Definitely worth checking out, so go get it. Coming in at number 4, Grave Ripper with Seasons Dreaming Death. This is like a blackened thrash from Indianapolis, super fast. If you like Slayer, this is awesome. But for somebody like me that likes the more guttural vocals versus the more shouty, screamy vocals, this is more my speed here. I really love the vocals on this one, and the production is super clean. I love that. You can actually hear the bass. It's crisp, excellent riffs, excellent pacing. You'll love this one. Check it out. Coming in at number 3, Augurium. Pretty sure I mispronounced that text on the screen, and as always, every band's Bandcamp link will be in the description so that these albums are easy to find. The name of this one is Unearthly Will, and this is symphonic death metal from Canada. Why I really like this one is because the death metal is groovy like I like it, and the symphonic part is epic with these evil sounding choirs. Absolutely love that. I think the lead guitar work on this is unique and cool, so that's always going to thrill me. It'll thrill you too if you check it out. Coming in at number 2, those UK boys, Celestial Sanctuary with Insatiable Thirst for Torment. I love death metal, and these guys are at the top of the mountain when it comes to the new breed of death metal. I absolutely love the gang vocals on this one, the circular riffs, and the super tight production. It sounds really good sonically. The punches nice and crisp. That's difficult to do when you got a bass heavy sounding death metal band. They pull it off expertly. Yeah, you gotta get this one. Celestial Sanctuary. And hey, before we do number one, I just got a couple things I want to say to you. If you love metal the way that I love metal, then you're in the right place and you should join the Heavy Metal Philosophy community because that's all we do here. Every weekend, I break down the best new metal releases exclusively here on YouTube. And then every Tuesday on all platforms is the podcast where we talk about the philosophical underpinnings of metal. So that's all we do here, metal. And if you like any of those bands that I've mentioned before, just hit the like button because it helps spread the message far and wide about these bands. And that's the most important part. Speaking of, now let's do number one. Coming in at number one, Ex Mortis with Necrophony. It was my privilege to not only get a sneak preview of this one, but also to be able to interview Conan, the lead singer and songwriter of the band. And we talked about this album and how it's different from the previous ones. If you've already subscribed, then you saw that was this week's podcast. If not, don't worry. There will be a link at the end of the episode right here on the screen. You can just click it real easy, so stick around to the end. But we talked about how this album's a lot darker than the previous Ex Mortis albums. The previous albums were real triumphant and heroic, and that's cool, but this one's more tragic and introspective, but it's not sad sounding, it's still fun metal. If you're a guitar nerd like me, you've got this awesome, like neoclassical, just guitar heroics all over the place, and there's lots of sections that are well composed and built where the band has to be tight and together to pull off these almost symphonic sort of sections. But then what I like about this one is in between all of those super composed, like built sections, there's these free flowing shreddy bits. It's just fun rock and roll, which makes for an overall fun listen. And that's why this one's number one. We're not done yet. Now let's do the album art of the week. My favorite album art this week, I'm doing it a lot different than I have in all the previous weeks. Because most of the time, I always pick something that's artsy-fartsy, something that moves me emotionally and makes me curious and gets me deep in thought. And I never pick a standard metal album cover. I never pick something with zombies or a skull or a dude in corpse paint standing in the forest. I mean, we get dozens and dozens of those every week, and I always want to pick something that's unique and stands out from the pack. Well, to be honest, this week was just a lot of really standard metal album covers. Lots of monsters and dragons and like a planet by itself and space. Even one album cover was just some dude standing there, black and white, looking all stern. You know, the typical local band photo shoot sort of picture. So since this week was a lot of standard metal album covers and it didn't have that artsy-fartsy thing that really moved me like normal, I said, let's just have fun. And I picked the one that stood out the most to me, and that's this one, Vandenberg with Sin. Sharks flying through a city. I don't know why. I don't get it. Vandenberg is an OG 80s metal band, hard rock, heavy metal. Not really my thing, but you put Sharks flying through the city and I'm paying attention. I looked through a collage of all of today's releases, and that's the one that just stood out to me. I was like, is that Sharks flying through the city? Okay, that's it. Hey, and the music's kind of cool too, so check it out. That's the album cover of the week. Now, as I said at the beginning, this is one of the most stacked release days of the year. I've been kind of dreading it, to be honest, because my inbox has been just filling up for the last couple of months with releases, and I was like, this is going to be a lot of work. But of course, once I dug into it, it's just so much awesome metal to listen to. It was tremendously difficult to pick just 5. I'm sure some of you have thought to yourself, where's this album at? How could you not pick this album? There was so much good death metal this week. So let me know in the comments, which ones would you have put in this week? Which ones did I miss? It was impossible to pick just 5. It was so good this week. Which ones are your favorite? I want to know. And like I said, I got that podcast where I got to interview Conan from Ex Mortis. All you got to do is click right here if you want to listen to that. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.